It's that time again. We're tracking the HHPH community immunity. Video number 3 is coming right up. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Black Spring with Autumn on your Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come in. And for those of you that are not sure whether or not you're coming in on your Thursday, I thank you as always for considering coming into Black Spring with Autumn. And we're going to also start out by giving thanks to our patrons, our sponsors, and of course the viewers and friends like you. So I'll be right back right after this. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Good morning to Kimon Reed Unstoppable, as well as Angela Reed. And we do seem to have a little bit of a delay today, but who else would we be around here without some of these, some of the glitch culture? So yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thanks so much to Derek C. Williams for sharing out the stream on this morning. Thank you so much, Derek C. Williams. And we're going to start with, I want to give you guys a few minutes to get in here because this is, as promised, I promised every week, not necessarily in the spirit of BHM, to bring you these, this anthology in the installments as soon as they come out. So I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this particular, the third installment of the community immunity was released probably around 4 a.m.ish on the Eastern Standard Time. And as I promised, I would bring that to you. And what I will say, that part of the anthology, I want to give you the title for that so that you understand, so that you know what you're working with. This particular video is entitled, "What Are Common Mocktail Myths and Misperceptions?" So that is, I do believe we're up to that on today. So yeah, but it's still part of the same campaign, just a different installment. So they are, from what I'm understanding, is that the goal is to raise a level of literacy, and I you can make your decision for yourself on that. And we've seen the first two. And so we're going to get into the third installment today. So thank you guys so much for joining me for that. And then we will move on. We're gonna keep moving on, even though we have the cancel culture is real, And I think I mentioned the last stream that I have officially received a hack check when I mentioned MTG. So if you find that on any of your any of the previous videos, I think it's retroactive what they're doing. I'm going to be honest. I'm hearing on the entire the social media spectrum that on some level, some of these strikes are coming, not even strikes or just warnings, or just the hack checks are coming in. They're retroactive on the hack checks. So just be aware of that. It's a part of their efforts to be compliant and to do what they're doing. And good morning to Anarchy TV. You snuck in there. Thank you so much for coming in and supporting. I really appreciate every single one of you. And so I'm just saying, any minute now, how long before we cancel the 17th letter of the alphabet? I don't know. Just give it to me straight. And yeah, so I mean, honestly, I was thinking it would be great if I have a turntable sound effect for when I'm ripped off the air, or if I'm ripped off of a video or stream. So yeah, just there's timing is everything, right? And so yeah, so we're going to be judging by the MTG narrative control. I can't tell you what's next, but we're going to move on, and then we'll go to our second part. We're actually going to hear from, it's a real treat today, because I have what I'm calling a little bit of a defense. DMC, Daryl of DMC, is it McDade, or I'm not sure what his last name is, but we'll get to that. We'll get that cleared right up for you. We have him and the hip hop doc themselves. They're going to offer a defense to, or even offer some clarification on what exactly is they're trying to achieve with this campaign. So hopefully you'll get something out of this. And I want to give you guys enough time to get in here, because it is not my intention to torture you with this particular campaign. But I will say that that a snippet of this defense, they will provide a snippet of this third installment in their defense. And yeah, so you'll get to see that. And also, we're going to take a quick look at, from the WE forum, they have their own stats on how the CV has affected education, and I guess, the trends or whatnot. You'll see their numbers. You can compare those yourself. You guys can always, look for counter arguments, and look for, support for that. Of course, we encourage that around here. And for the final trick, we will do, we have a little bit of an op-ed from Dennis Prager, and it talks about the denial. And I've talked about that before, even though I kind of put denial in a couple of different categories. But we'll hear from Dennis Prager, which is Dennis Prager of PragerU. If you're not familiar with that, you might want to check out Dennis Prager before we get into that. But his op-ed is actually entitled "The Denial of Evil and the Case of Communism." So there you go. We'll get that from, we'll take that line from Business and Politics Review. We'll take that from that line. So thank you guys so much for coming in. And also, I want to emphasize, as always, I know I sound like a broken record, but if you could please continue to hit the like and or dislike button, or the share button, because we're trying to stay in the game, or stay on the field. I mean, if you will, we're trying to stay in the game around here. So if you could hit that like button, dislike button, share, or even just on a more fundamental level, just make sure you're still subscribed. And if you could hit those, I know it was late today, and you'd never believe that I'm not late. I'm not normally late. I actually detest being late. But if you could hit the reminder, it might help. It might help you with the reminder that I'm going live. So we have a little bit, as you can see, the thumbnail is entitled "Lights, Camera, Action," and that's because we're going to debut or premiere this third installment of the community immunity campaign. And I want to say hi once again to my friends in the chat, Kimone Reed Unstoppable, who is drinking hot chocolate. That sounds really good. It's a rich way to start off your Thursday. Kimone Reed, thank you so much for coming in. Anarchy, good morning to you. And also, let the truth be told. It's nice to see you. Thank you guys so much for coming in. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We're 10 minutes, we're a little under 10 and a half minutes in to the stream. So I won't hold you very long on that. I won't delay any further. But yes, if you could please make sure you are hitting the button. And also, I have provided for you the actual the Twitch link. So if you've been digging around on the Twitch platform or the Twitch links and you can't quite find it, I think it's best if you have the actual link because you can go right to it. And a word of note to the friends over on Periscope, that is coming to a close on that stream capability is coming to a close on March 31st. So you've got less than well, you may have a little bit, you got a little bit more than 25 days, I guess. What's today? I think today's the 24th, is it? Today the 24th? There's the 25th. So you would normally have 6 days plus, 6 more days, but this is a short month, so you don't even have I can't say that you have the full stretch of the time there. So it's not on your side, is to say the least. And for whatever, I can't do math right now. So if you'll get over there and and plan your stream what works for you. Okay, so with that said, hello, Sleek Steaks Rule. So we're going to get into our program for today. And this is Mocktail Campaign Take 3, and I'll be right with you on the third debut, and then we'll follow it up. We'll have a word from the hip hop doc and Mr. Daryl McDade, I do believe it is. So we'll get on with it. All right, and before we do that, let's just have a little infomercial, and then we'll go ahead and get in. I know I'm delaying, but I really would like to give you guys a chance to get in here because this one is going to be, we're going to go from we're going to rapid fire right from the video, and then hear from the creators and the collaboration. All right, guys, so here we go. And 3, 2, 1.
Vaccine, you got the vaccine, they got the vaccine, we got the vaccine. We can get back to normal, let me inform you, let's all get the vaccine. It's about community immunity. I'm talking unity for you and me. If Doc says it's good, then trust me, it's good. Now let's all get the vaccine. Hey, Doc, what's going on? I got a question.
About the vaccine lies in misperception.
Now, if it's true or if it's false, I mean, a lot of people lost. They want to know, do you got any suggestions?
I got a few. Now I'm going to do my part to help. The vaccine is safe, I got the shot myself. The misinformation a lot of people facing, the hip-hop doc came to erase it.
They say the shot will give you COVID.
Nah, it won't give you COVID.
Now, wait a sec. You saying it protects you from COVID?
Not only will the vaccine protect, but those with underlying conditions need it more than the rest.
Will it affect our DNA?
That's false, don't believe it. The vaccine will help us, we need it.
It's not just a moment of truth, but a moment for truth.
The vaccine is safe,
believe it.
Alrighty. All right, guys. So there you had, there was your segment 3 on the installment. So hopefully you learned something on that one, if not if not from 1 and 2. But now we're going to have a word from the creator and the Dr. Hip Hop, or Hip Hop Doc is what he's referring to himself as. So let's see what happens there. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll be right back.
The vaccine, is it because of the history?
Well, I think it's I mean, I think it's the history.
Hang on just 1 second there.
Joining us this morning, Dr. Olajide Williams, founder of Hip Hop Public Health, and Grammy Award-winning music artist Daryl DMC McDaniels of Run DMC. Good morning to you, Daryl. You taking your seat?
What's happening? What's going on?
Hi, good morning.
All right, so guys, thank you for being here, both of you. Why do you think some African Americans are hesitant getting the vaccine? Is it because of the history?
Well, I think I mean, I think it's the history. The history hasn't been particularly kind. Medical experimentation on Black people in this country is well known. And so, the history is really a big driver.
Yeah, so therefore, education needs to be key here in changing that trend, right? So, Daryl, I want to bring you in on that. I mean, you obviously resonate with audiences out there. Why was it important for you to become a part of this?
Because you have to conquer fear with the facts. And, if you say vaccinations, you need to go get a shot, the first thing that most Black people will think of is Tuskegee. So they have a right to be fearful. But if you use facts, you could destroy the fear. What we're trying to do here is save lives and stop this pandemic. And to show you how deep fear is rooted, but you could use facts to break it up. A couple of years ago, I had to fly to South Sudan to perform, which was crazy. I went to South Sudan. Wow. It was an amazing experience. But I had to go get 5 shots. I had to go get 5 shots. And if you're looking at history, you look at good history, we had to get vaccinated for polio. And I remember being a little kid, my mother took me to get a tetanus shot. So we have to use facts to eradicate the fear and tell people this is about saving lives. We must reach community immunity to stop the COVID. I want to take the mask off, go back to the gym. I want to get back on stage. So there are things that we have to do. But in order to do those things, we got to remove the fear and all the misinformation. Stay off the damn internet.
Oh, gosh.
Go talk to a doctor.
We got the doctor right here. And, your organization, Hip Hop Public Health, launching a series of 5 videos to do exactly what you're doing, which is to educate and inform. Let's play a little snippet.
Sorry about that, guys.
There is none higher. DMC, I will inspire. Time for us to trust and not debate. The vaccine, believe it's safe to take. 9 out of 10 people won't get sick. That's 90% effective and legit. This COVID thing is real and it will find you. It's killing our people. Let me remind you.
So what's the message here in the video, Daryl?
So the message is fivefold. The overarching message is to really encourage people, take people on a journey. The reason why we have 5 videos is because the first video really is designed to kind of introduce what vaccines are and how they've helped save lives, how they've helped save lives over the years and decades, and the tremendous contribution the vaccines have had to medical science. And so the first one just introduces vaccine in that way. And antibodies are a complicated concept, and so we feel that animation is a way to really simplify the concept of how antibodies work in the body. And so but each video, the second one talks about the safety of vaccines, and this is where D talks a little bit about Tuskegee. He talks about some of the issues that are sensitive to the community. The third one talks a little bit more about some of the misinformation we see on social media. And the fourth one really talks about what happens when you get the shot. What are the side effects that you experience? I've had both shots. I had the Moderna, both shots of the vaccine,
Okay.
and I had some mild side effects. And
Mhm.
and so the fourth one goes through these side effects, and the fifth one talks about community immunity. Why, in order for us to get out of this of this pandemic without costing another 40 million American lives to get infected, is to vaccinate our way out of
Yeah.
this pandemic.
It takes you through the
You know,
whole process there, doctor. And I think that's important for people to understand it as a whole. But Daryl, I want to bring you back in because I think what you said really resonates not only with folks who have come here from foreign countries, but people who have grown up here. Like you said, you went to Sudan, you got 5 shots. I went to Sierra Leone, I got 7. I was like, how can you get 7 shots in one day? How is that even possible? Will my body handle this, right? But I think when you grow up as a child in this country too, you're getting so many different immunizations, right? So while there's that fear, we're still going through it and people are surviving it. So I have to ask you, with all of this, did you get a vaccine?
Not yet. I have to let the people who need it before me get theirs. The old people, people with sickle cell anemia, diabetes, people with health conditions, and people that are older than me. I'm in pretty good shape. You know what I'm saying? You just pulled me off the treadmill.
I saw.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely going to get it. And like I said, the doc out here is, I know a bunch of people in my gym that got their shots. They said they had no adverse effects. I just want to say this to people out there. You're not going to turn into a zombie.
Yeah.
They're not.
No, I like this real talk.
This real talk. You're not going to turn into a zombie. You're not going to die. They're not trying to control us. If you have any reservations about getting the shot, I want to say it's safe. But think about it like this. Let me go get the shot so I can protect others. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be selfish and worry about me. This is bigger than us. I'm getting the shot so I could protect people older than me, people with underlying conditions, and people who are more susceptible, who are more likely to die than me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And
So
I think
that's why it's important. We go get the shot. Let's all go get the shot for somebody else.
And I like I like your point about the side effects. I think some people get that first shot and they say, oh my gosh, my arm hurt and this is it. I'm not going for the second one because I had mild side. And I think it's so important to hear from both of you that it's okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people that we talked to said those side effects are just proof that your body is working, that the whole thing is working.
Yeah.
I told the doc last time.
We don't even like calling it side effects. We like calling it reactogenicity because it's a sign that your immune system is actually being revved up and it's working. But we also think it's important to get both shots. If you understand that these side effects are mild, this reactogenicity is mild, and it usually passes within 24 hours. When I had both shots, my symptoms were very mild and it passes. But we also, need people to get the second shot because to have that durable immunity, you need both shots, at least with the current vaccines that have been approved. We know that the one that's coming down the pipeline is a one-shot deal. But right now, with the ones that are available, you need both shots for durable immunity.
Understood. Hey, Dr. Williams, Daryl, thank you both for being here. Thanks for everything you're doing to get.
All right, guys. I thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And, as you can see, you got a chance to hear it from, for the lack of a better phrase, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And, I find it interesting that that even Daryl McDaniel, I got that wrong earlier, that it seems that he's doing more talking. He did more talking than the actual hip hop doc, Dr. Williams, that was sitting right there. And, if I would just think if this is an issue of trust, wouldn't it be more valid if you get the reassurance from the actual medical professional that's on this panel, rather than totally throwing it back to McDaniels, who's basically giving you, he's trying to pad your confidence with emotion. He's saying, oh, let's fight fear with facts, but then he enters the emotion. He's, oh, let's do this for somebody else. And, it's not about being selfish. And, and then the key ticker is, when the news person says, oh, have you gotten your shot? And then he goes, no, I gotta look out for all the little people that are not as in good shape as I am, or the elderly, or the people with pre-existing conditions. I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys are, he's doing a very convincing job. But I also noticed that he says, if you look at good history, what is good history? I don't know. Am I missing something here? He's kind of created his own. He's created his own narrative and his own little buzzwords here to appeal, of course, because he's got the creds, because he's a Grammy Award winner, and he's got, they're giving him. I just think that if this is about literacy, and all we've heard in the last 13, 14 months is about science, why not have more? Why don't you bring your science heavyweights in here and break this thing and deconstruct this thing? Why bring hip hop to the forefront? I mean, I'm sorry, but Mr. McDaniels is not I don't think he's an epidemiologist. I don't believe he is a virologist. I don't believe he has any medical swag, but the hip hop is all you need, right? For us Black people who are not, we can't be informed. We can't possibly muster enough gumption or enough gall to look into things for ourselves. And I just think that he's just given a whole bunch of, he's saying, well, we try to talk about antibodies. I don't remember them speaking about antibodies. First, if you talked about antibodies, what are antibodies? What are antibodies? If you want to say that you're using the video as a as a vehicle in this, well, where does it talk about antibodies specifically? We've seen 2 videos, and this is the 3rd installment today. And I don't remember them talking about antibodies. I don't remember them using any type of graphs or models. What did we see? We saw like 2 muscle-like figures standing in front of in something that looked like a movie theater belt to keep people in the queue for a movie, a muscular characterized 2 shots. You got antibody security, something like that. It's not that's been the extent of their education on antibodies. So I'm just saying, call me crazy, but I think there's a little bit to be desired here. But and at the end there, you notice he says, oh, they're not trying to control us, and why be selfish? And I'm just think this thing is so, I'm not sure if they shared the load very well with what they're trying to achieve here. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, of course, in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. In fact, I'm probably going to open this up just for the sake of that. And yeah, so you can see here, I have the stat for you. They're saying that the CV-19 has killed 1 out of every 645 Black Americans. So I don't, and that's courtesy of APM Research Lab. Okay, so you got to do your own homework on these things. And for a while they weren't even talking about comorbidities or pre-existing conditions. So now we're back to that. So I don't know. The campaign continues because there will be a 4th and a 5th installment, and it will go beyond BHM. So, and but somebody in the comment section mentioned that somebody was laughing. Yes, Angela Reed says, as he is laughing. I hear again, I think it's condescending, and I think it's very, I just think it's a little disingenuous what they're doing here. But, they spent a lot of money, and Mr. McDaniels, I'm sure he was compensated well for his influence there. And let me read a couple comments. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And Rachel says families are starting to associate with only those family members that are. Yes, that's a very interesting point. A good point that you're making there, Rachel. More family dysfunction. Yes, this is a total disruption. as if the family structure needed more disruption, or if people's lives could stand any more disruption. I've heard of people not visiting family members, whether they're elderly or what. I've heard of people just not even just kind of disassociating themselves because members of their families are not, they're making their own choices. So it's certainly a disruptor and another divisive. It's the vehicle for so many things. And Steve Willis says, "Trust us, we won't do anything bad this time." Right, Steve Willis, right. And Sleek Steak Rule says, "I'll trust a jab once the government has nothing to do with it." Thank you for that. And Rachel says, "Pharmaceutical companies are an arm of government, just like the concentration camps." Yes, Rachel Van Ziel, and I'm going to get back to you in just a second with something that you mentioned that I received from you. And upside down cross on him. Did you see it? No way, Rachel. Which one had the upside down cross? I'd be willing to go back a bit just to see that. And see, hang on just one second. Kimon says, "Happy Thursday to everyone." And Rachel says, "We still haven't learned government is not our friend." And some of us, quite a few haven't learned. Rachel said, "Listen to those scientists trained by who?" Okay. Thank you for that, Rachel. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to take a look at what you sent me earlier. You said the guy with the white shirt. Oh gosh, I really want to. Let me go back into that just a second here, or maybe I'll go back to the end of it at the end there. Satan spawns, Lord help. Okay, all right. So what I'll do is let's go back into it just a second. We'll just scan it really quick, and I'll see it.
Group less likely to get vaccinated. That's why our next guest has teamed up to educate everyone. Joining us this morning, Dr. Olajide Williams.
They said everyone. You notice they said everyone, but the title, their own sites is Community Immunity, informing the Black community about the CV-19. That is not what the marketing package doesn't say that. So let me just get going here. Let me see if I can find
Public Health and Grammy Award-winning music artist Daryl DMC McDaniels of Run DMC. Good morning to you, Daryl. You taking a seat?
Look for it, guys.
What's happening? What's going on?
Hi, good morning.
No, I should put my glasses
guys,
back on.
Thank you for being here, both of you. Why do you think some African Americans are hesitant at getting the vaccine? Is it because of the history?
Well, I think I think it's the history. The history hasn't been particularly kind. Medical experimentation on Black people in this country is well known. And so, the history is really a big driver.
Yeah. So therefore, education needs to be key here in changing that trend, right? So Daryl, I want to bring you in on that. I mean, you obviously resonate with audiences out there. Why was it important for you to become a part of this?
Because you have to conquer fear with the facts. And, if you say vaccinations, you need to go get a shot, the first thing that most Black people will think of is Tuskegee. So they have a right to be fearful. But if you use facts, you could destroy the fear. What we're trying to do here is save lives and stop this pandemic. And to show you how deep fear is rooted, but you could use facts to break it up. A couple of years ago, I had to fly to South Sudan to perform, which was crazy. I went to South Sudan. Wow. It was an amazing experience. But I had to go get 5 shots. I had to go get 5 shots. And if you're looking at history, you look at good history, we had to get vaccinated for polio. And I remember being a little kid, my mother took me to get a tetanus shot. So we have to use facts to eradicate the fear and tell people this is about saving lives. We must reach community immunity to stop the COVID. I want to take the mask off, go back to the gym, I want to get back on stage. So there are things that
Totally.
we have to do. But
So-
in order to do those things, we got to remove the fear and all the misinformation. Stay off the damn internet.
Oh gosh, you
Go
know, and
talk to a doctor.
you got the doctor right here, and you know your organization,
Yes.
Hip Hop Public Health, launching a series of 5 videos to do exactly what you're doing, which is to educate and inform. Let's play a little snippet.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna look through that later. But as you can see, I can only see. I'm seeing the scowl from this guy McDaniel. And like, wow, that seems to be a scowl. You know, I call it the wasabi face because I'm able to do that. I'm able to create that when I'm using muscles of the face. But it just seems like it's like they're channeling their inner Sophia. They're all. I mean, McDaniels looks very angry, right to Alice's awesome Alice's point. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, awesome Alice said that the one on the right looks angry. He does. He doesn't look. He doesn't look. He has this confidence in anything. Right. I'm not sure what he's trying to achieve here, but. I will look for that. I think you guys said it's the guy in the white shirt. What I'll do is I'll go back in there. I'll go through it and I'll see if I can see it. Because he's wearing the white shirt for sure. He's the only one in there. All right. So with that said, we're going to go on. I thank you guys so much for tuning in, and let's take a little mini infomercial break. And Rachel says, no, we need the Nuremberg Code enforced. I hear you. Thank you so much, Rachel Van Ziel, for that. And Kimon Reed says they want us to believe them. And Awesome Alice says they make my brain hurt. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go to a little bit of an infomercial, and then we're going to come back and we're going to go to another story. I think we're going to go on to our story in reference to the. Let's see, we can go a couple of different directions here, but I'm going to take you to the story on the CV and how it's affected the education. And then for our final story, we'll do the Dennis Prager op-ed on denial. And I just think denial exists. Denial is not just a powerful thing or a powerful, default setting. It's not just powerful there. It's been powerful in many other instances. So we'll come right back and we'll have a look at it. And I don't know, we're going to open up for just a few comments, and we'll be right back. Thank you guys for tuning in. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, there's something for everyone. So please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. And yes, we're going to move on over to the We Forum. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into share screen mode, and we're going to have a look at what our friends over at the We Forum have to say about how, once again, we're talking about disruptions on this Thursday, and we know that there are, disruptions everywhere due to the CV-19, right? But how long are they going to continue? How do we achieve disruption immunity? You guys got any ideas on that? I'm listening. All right, so let's go right there. You guys could please be sure to hit the like button and the unlike button, and please make sure you're still subscribed on a bottom line level. Thank you so much. All right. So what we have right now is we have our friends from the World Economic Forum. That is the WE Forum. And it is entitled How the CV-19 Has Changed the Way We Educate Children. So you guys, we talked the other night, or at least the other day, in reference to, we spoke about, the teachers unions and the effects on the different types of trends that have followed the CV-19, and the also all hands on deck from the number two teachers union in the nation. And so we'll go right now. Let's go over to the WE Forum and see what they have on tap for your kids this time around. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So I'm going to give you some full scale on this, and we'll keep going. All right. So according to this, the CV-19 pandemic has resulted in worldwide school closures. During the peak of the lockdown, nearly 1.6 billion children were out of the classroom. Preliminary research suggests that time out of the classroom has led to learning losses in subjects such as maths. This is maths? Do you see the THS? Maths. Okay, I'm quoting here. All right, so almost 1 year from our last blog, it's clear that blended learning formats, including the enhanced use of technology, are here to stay. You guys remember we did we had a look at Davos and the campaign. They had an entire day that was devoted to technology for good. And it's a little bit of a play on words, if you ask me. But I'm sorry for the digression there. But we'll keep going here. But it's all apropos. Okay, students, parents, and educators are in the midst of another tumultuous school year due to the CV-19. At the height of the school closures in mid-April 2020, 94% of learners worldwide were affected by the pandemic, representing nearly 1.6 billion students in 200 countries. According to the recent research, the impact of this time away from the classroom could have a lifelong impact to students' earnings. One estimate suggests that the global learning losses from 4 months of school closures could amount to $10 trillion in terms of lost earnings. Despite the impact to learning and growing evidence that schools are not hotspots for the CV transmission, a number of schools around the world remain closed. How have educational disruptions impacted student learning? An average of 50 days of in-person teaching have been lost to school closures globally, based on the preliminary data comparing students' academic achievement and growth during the pandemic to achievement and growth patterns observed in 2019. This time out of the classroom has impacted learning. Research has shown that while in almost all grades, the majority of students made some learning gains in both reading and math since pandemic started, gains were smaller depending on the subject. Students in grades 3 through 8 performed slightly in reading to the same grade students in the latter part of 2019. However, math achievement of students in 2020 was about 5 to 10 percentile points lower compared to same grade students to the prior year. Many are keen to understand the long-term impact of this prolonged disruption to students' education and what parents, teachers, students, and businesses and government can be doing to help mitigate the learning losses due to the CV-19. One of the key questions that needs to be addressed is how the adoption of new learning models, new learning methods, skills, and technologies may be able to address this problem in the future. How have education ministries responded around the world? Almost every country introduced additional support programs to remediate learning loss as schools were reopening, according to UNICEF, and the World Bank survey of 149 ministries of education. Inclusion of remote learning in its education response to CV-19 using online platforms, TV, radio programs, and/or take-home packages were also standard responses. Spain quickly introduced educational content through its broadcast channels. Mexico leveraged its educational television telesecundaria by combining short educational videos with lesson plans, and Uruguay adopted live remote teaching using its national online learning program. Online learning has been provided as a solution in many parts of the world, although the rates differed by income level. Now, there's a point that's interesting. This is basically state-sponsored education. As you can see, these other countries, the Spain, Mexico, and how they used telecom as a part of their education ministry. Now, I'm curious, how long will it take before that idea comes here? Anyway, sorry for the digression. In about 60 countries, the Ministry of Education created its own platform to display educational content for teachers and students in primary and secondary education. Commercial, e.g. Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom, and open source platforms, e.g. Moodle, Canvas, were also used to complement those national education platforms for the delivery of synchronous classes. Okay, but how effective did countries find the switch to remote learning? Globally, online learning platforms were rated as either very at 36% or fairly at 58% effective. This is not surprising, according to the Renal Mowat, Chief Operating Officer at BYJUS, an Indian educational technology and online tutoring firm, who says that online learning can leverage the power of digital tools to make learning fun and engaging. In video-based lessons, teachers can encourage students to interact through discussions in small groups. With game-based learning, students can collaborate to foster important socialization and teamwork skills. Of course, the data has shown the effectiveness differs based on income group, likely due to the ability to fully leverage the benefits of remote learning based on network connectivity or the prerequisite infrastructure, digital skills, and or appropriate access to technology. So here you'll have your figures here. You guys can dig into these and play around with them, but this is, according to this figure, this is perceived effectiveness of remote learning by modality and income group. So they break it down here: low income, lower middle income, upper middle income, high income, and global. And of course, the ranking is very effective, fairly effective, and not effective. So you guys can see that it's pretty varying, whether it's online, TV, radio, take home. You can see those stats for yourself. I'll put that out for you. To tackle this, companies like BJUS are making sure their learning content can be accessed on SD cards and or 2G and 3G networks. Their Give initiative, part of their Education for All program, encourages donations of old and unused smart devices that will then be refurbished and powered by JUS's content and distributed free to children with no access to online education. Of course, further public action could support this goal. What will the future of learning look like? See, I kind of jumped the gun earlier. Many countries have adopted hybrid approaches, constituting a mix of in-person and remote learning for when schools open. Going forward, Mowat believes we will continue to see the rise of blended learning. Learning will eventually combine asynchronous online elements with synchronous elements, enabling students to interact with each other, their teachers, and learning content all at the same time. Quote, I think the future of education will seamlessly combine offline and online learning, and we will be able to find the right balance somewhere in the middle. We will witness the education sector take a leap from the traditional one-to-many approach to blended one-on-one learning experiences, providing students with the best of both physical and digital worlds, end quote, he says. The recent announcement of cooperation between TAL Education Group, an edtech firm headquartered in Beijing that currently teaches over 3 million students. And UNESCO also points to the changing nature of the sector. This agreement focuses on developing a global online learning system responsive to emergent crises using IT and AI technologies. Onion Academy demonstrates another future-oriented learning product. It combines AI technology and animation videos to deliver knowledge points and thinking tools. The animated videos last for 5 to 8 minutes on average, accompanied by an after-class exercise on the app to help students review concepts on the spot and cultivate self-directed learning. Wow, this is getting I don't know if you guys can you guys see where this is going a little bit? Just a little bit. By applying AI and big data technologies, the app diagnoses academic performances, develops personalized learning paths, and recommends video content according to individual learning behaviors. Many students enjoy this form of learning. Onion Academy currently has over 51 million registered students and 1.8 registered teachers. The platform has accumulated learning hours of over 4.3 billion minutes and over 4 billion exercises completed and over 150 billion learning behavior data. These types of innovations and partnerships indicate that the digital transformation of the educational sector is accelerating. Hint, hint. The use of frontier educational technologies to develop a dual teacher model that merge online and offline learning will be central to the future of education. The mode of delivery is just one aspect of changing the face of education. The skills students will need to succeed are also rapidly evolving. In Yuval Noah Harari's book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he outlines how schools continue to focus on traditional academic skills and rote learning rather than on skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, and adaptability, which will be more important for success in the future. While establishing a routine will provide the structure students need to succeed, research has shown the benefits of learning through play, as well as the potential for significant learning gains from gameplay interactions. Therefore, finding ways to achieve this will be important in any future educational design, whether online, offline, or hybrid model is used. Growth and outlook for ed tech. While the length and extent of disruptions to classroom teaching are still unclear, it is clear that technology will be more important to life inside and outside of schools. This has been reflected through growing investments in ed tech over 2020, which brought in over $10 billion of VC investment across the world. Global venture funding for ed tech companies reached $4.1 billion between January and July 2020, more than double the amount raised during the same period in 2019, and the highest amount raised in that time frame for the past 5 years. So here you go. Here's your investors, your stakeholders. Global venture funding for ed tech, January through July 2015 through 2020. So they're showing, they're tracking their trajectory, if you will. That's my assertion. While there were significant deals in the U.S., including Coursera's $130 million round in July 2020 and Masterclass $100 million in May, the largest deals in 2020 were China's Yanfundao, which raised $1 billion in March 2020, followed by Chinese startup Zhuobang's $750 million in June. A global investment firm also purchased shares of TAL worth $1.5 billion in 2020, based on the analysis of venture capital deals in this space over the last few years. There is clearly substantial interest in ed tech investments, signaling strong future growth and quality of sector. So you guys can get these stats here. And finally here, this is the end of this one. While there are clearly tremendous opportunities in the field of education and in technologies, the bright things that bring these things to light, leveraging these within the context of the broader well-being of children and students, considering online safety, the need for stronger connections, and the new skills required for success will be key. Through innovative partnerships such as Quizlet and TikTok, new content delivery mechanisms, and consideration for overall health of children, we can strive to foster a future generation that has learned more than it has lost from the pandemic. All right, guys, if that wasn't enough for you to chew on, but from what I can see, to me, it's looking more like, this is more of a shoring up of technology. And it looks like to me, they're looking for global solutions. Rachel says math is now considered racist. Yes. Well, I can see, yes, yeah. And guess who's behind the gates of math? We went over that the other day, but it just seems like to me that this is all, problem solution. We call it the Hegelian dialectic, right? Something like that. We've got all these issues and all these styles of learning platforms. They're calling it blended, hybrid, with all of these names that they're coming up with, and they've already got the solution. So I'd imagine that there's going to be a bigger call for 5G and And not just that, but I do believe that the states or that the nations are going to get involved. And maybe that's the reason why they're delaying. These are my assertions, my hypothesis that maybe that's the reason there is a delay, is because they have a solution in mind, and it's going to give you, the parent or even the student, you're going to have less control. It's not going to be a traditional classroom. It's going to be based on what the stakeholders want and what the state and what they're going to lock arms with the governments on is from what I can see. And it's all going to be done under the flag and the banner of safety and equity and equality and all the typical suspects that are happening right now. So I thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just want to read a few of these comments here. Because the thing about it is, can you imagine if that's complete control. If they're going to you're going to get devices. If you end up with devices that are refurbished by the state, and of course it's funded by the state, so you're going to have you're going to learn exactly what they want you to learn. And it's funny that they mention, it looks like China and Beijing, they have they've got a pretty good grasp in the sector already. And I think we talked about before when I did a little bit of a piece on the 5G about how our government claims that they were concerned about 5G and sharing, that kind of, sharing trade secrets and all these kinds of things, and the infiltration of our trade secrets on a global level. So I think these are going to get interesting. I really think this is going to be education is going to be used to usher in some things that are going to be, of course, give us less control, and it's going to end up with state surveillance is what it's going to be. I think that's what it looks like to me. Is that Huawei is also at the front was supposedly one of the concerns, and their affiliation with the CCP in the government. So I think that's going to be one to watch. The longer this thing goes on, or what they propose or what they present as a solution going forward. So there you go on that. What I'm going to do, as promised, I will put that link in the stream for you. You guys want to chew on those stats if you want. We're available. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yeah, and back to Rachel Van Ziel's point. Yes, we have a lot of this whole cancel culture thing and the ushering in of all these replacements that are coming down the pike. I know I've had some conversations, what's the SB 45, that it's being declared many of these states and many of these cities are under the SB 45. They're basically shouting from the rooftops that, that racism is a public health crisis. So I think that's something else. We've heard about Coca-Cola this week and all of these things. So, this needs to be treated. It's a health crisis. So, who knows? I mean, we've already had, back last fall, we had San Bernardino County declare racism as a public health crisis. And I tell you, it's like we're under a spell. It's slowly but surely, I think, taking a little bit. It's creeping into every community nationwide. It's not going to be just one or two places anymore. It's not. We're just delaying the inevitable, and I've talked about that before. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oops, I'm sorry I'm on the black screen there, but all right. And for our final trick on today, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. We're going to go to an op-ed piece. It's a pretty brief piece by Dennis Prager of PragerU. And it talks about the denials of communism. So let's go into that. I want to thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So I'm going to be sharing that screen with you. And if you guys could please be so kind to continue to hit the like button or the unlike button for the dissemination of the stream. And help us stay in the game, if you will. And so we're going to take that liner as our final liner from businessandpoliticsreview.com. And this is an opinion piece. It's Dennis Prager, The Denial of Evil and the Case of Communism. All right. So, of course, the op-ed views and opinions expressed are solely those of the author, okay? So, one of the most highly regarded books of the 20th century was Ernest Becker's, quote, The Denial of Death, end quote. Winner of the 1974 Pulitzer Prize, the book is regarded as a classic for its analysis of how human beings deny their mortality. But there's something people deny more than mortality: evil. Someone should write a book on denial of evil. That would be much more important, because while we cannot prevent death, we can prevent evil. All right, I'm sorry about the imagery there, but this is Mark Lamont Hill, by the way. The most glaring example of denial of evil is communism, an ideology that, within a period of only 60 years, created modern totalitarianism and deprived of human rights, tortured, starved, and killed more people than any other ideology in history. Why people ignore or even deny communist evil is the subject of a previous column, as well as a Prager University video, quote, Why isn't communism as hated as Nazism, end quote. I will therefore not address that question here. I will simply lay out the facts. But before I do, I need to address another question. Why is it important that everyone know what communism did? Here are the 3 reasons. First, we have a moral obligation to the victims not to forget them, just as Americans have a moral obligation to remember the victims of American slavery. We have the same obligation to the billion victims of communism, especially the 100 million who were murdered. Second, the best way to prevent an evil from reoccurring is to confront it in all its horror. The fact that many people today, especially young people, believe communism is a viable, even morally superior option for modern societies proves they know nothing about communism's moral record. Therefore, they do not properly fear communism, which means this evil could happen again. And why could it happen again? That brings us to the reason number 3. The leaders of communist regimes and the vast number of people who helped those leaders torture, enslave, and murder, plus the many more people who reported on their neighbors for saying something objectionable to the communists, were nearly all normal people. Of course, some were psychopaths, but most were not, which proves that any society, including free ones, can devolve into communism or some analogous evil. Now, some facts. According to the authoritative, quote, The Black Book of Communism, in quote, written by 6 French scholars and published in the United States by Harvard University Press, the numbers of people murdered, not people killed in combat, ordinary civilians trying to live their lives by communist regimes, were Latin America, 150,000, Vietnam, 1 million, Eastern Europe, 1 million, Ethiopia, 1.5 million, North Korea, 2 million, Cambodia, 2 million, the Soviet Union, 20 million. Many scholars believe the number was considerably higher, and China, 65 million. These numbers are quite conservative. For example, in Ukraine alone, the Soviet regime, its Ukrainian Communist Party helpers starved 5 to 6 million to death within a 2-year period. It is almost inconceivable that only 14 to 15 million other Soviet citizens were murdered. And of course, these numbers do not describe the suffering endured by hundreds of millions of people who were not murdered, the systematic stripping people of their right to speak freely, to worship, to start a business, or even to travel without party permission. No non-communist judiciary or media, the near poverty of nearly all communist countries, the imprisonment and torture of vast numbers of people, and of course, the trauma suffered by hundreds of millions of friends and relatives of the murdered and imprisoned. These numbers don't tell you about the many starving Ukrainians who ate the flesh of people, often children, sometimes including their own, or the Romanian Christians whose communist prison guards forced them to eat feces to compel them to renounce their faith, or the frozen millions in the vast Soviet Siberian prison camps, system known as the Gulag Archipelago, or the Vietnamese communists routine practice of burying peasants alive to terrorize people and supporting the communist, or Mao Zedong's regular use of torture to punish opponents and intimidate peasants, like leading men down the street with rusty wires through their testicles and burning the vagina of wives of opponents with flaming wicks. Mao's techniques to terrorize peasants into supporting the Chinese Communist Party in its early days. Source for the above. Okay, he gives you the sources. The Ukraine and Applebaum's Red Famine, Stalin's War on Ukraine, Romania, Eugene Majorescu, quote, The Devil's Mill, Memories of Petesi Prison, end quote. Gives you the citing on that. I'll put that in the stream for you guys. Vietnam's Max Hastings, quote, The Vietnam, an Epic Tragedy, 1945 through 1975. In China, Zheng Shang and John Halliday, quote, Mao, the Unknown Story. I return to the theme of the denial of evil. People associate evil with darkness, but that is not accurate. It is easy to look into the dark, and it is very hard to stare into bright light. One should therefore associate evil with extreme brightness, given that people rarely look at real evil, and those who do not confront real evil often make up evils, such as, quote, systemic racism, end quote, toxic masculinity, end quote, and heteronormativity in the 21st century America that are much easier to confront. The book of Psalms states, quote, Those of you who love God, you are to hate evil, end quote. In other words, you can't love God if you don't hate evil. And if you don't believe in God, here's another way of putting it, quote, Those of you who love people, you are to hate evil. If you don't hate communism, you don't care about much. You don't care about, much less love people. All right. So to Dennis Prager, it says Dennis Prager is a nationally syndicated radio talk show host and columnist. His latest book, published by Regenery in May 2019, is The Rational Bible, a commentary on the book of Genesis. His film, quote, No Safe Spaces, end quote, was released to home entertainment nationwide on September 5th, 2020. He's the founder of Prager University and may be contacted at dennisprager.com. So I'll give you guys that. Pretty dark, right? All right. Yeah, I'm not sure. Thanks for the tip there. There's some more the screen changes there. Okay, so there you have. I put that link in the stream for you. I want to read a couple of comments. Hello to DJ Vision Barnett. R. Jones is here. Hi, R. Jones. I'm going backwards a little bit here. It says, but the thing is, they have already given away their hand. They publicize about foreign hackers, inaccurate history being taught, unholy alliance with the CCP, poor outcomes, effects of 5G. And Rachel says they screwed us all when they started using Common Core. Children and parents, even college-educated parents, had issues with it. Thank you, Rachel. And awesome Alice. Sorry for the delays, guys. A lot going on here. And awesome Alice says it's going to happen again because they make it seem a great idea. I hear you. And she also says that, so communism is like population control. All right. And let the truth be told. Thank you so much for coming in and supporting. He says, no matter how much you tell people about the history of the past, evilness will always continue because it's easier to believe a lie than the truth. All right, guys. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It really makes a huge difference, and and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. And I want to open this up just for a few seconds. I'm not sure if we have any takers, but I'm just going to do our usual 3 to 5 allotment here. And if not, we will be saying so long on the Thursday. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. All right, so you have a bit of a link there. And hope you guys enjoyed the third installment of the community immunity campaign. I mean, it was released, as I said earlier, it was released around 4 a.m. ish today. 4 a.m. So people on the Eastern Standard Time, was you guys had access to it, first. But I think I will be honest. I think that the Hip Hop Public Health, I think they have their own YouTube channel. So I think you'll get to see other campaigns that they've done. That organization, it's not a new organization. It's just that they're using it as a tool. They've got lots of things that they're using that organization for. So we're going to go to a little bit of a break. And if we have no takers, then we'll be saying so long on your Thursday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh, look who's here. We do have a guest.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi, DJ.
Hey, all is well, all is well.
Do you have something for us? How are you today? It's been a lifetime. It's nice to see you.
Yep. Well, I was since the last time we talked, I was checking out some prepper stuff. I sent you that my Patriot Supply one. That was the last one that I was looking at.
There I'm doing it again. Yes, I did take a look, but I didn't get through all of the information, but I will certainly take a look at the rest, and I'll get back to you for sure. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yep.
do you have anything for us on the hip hop heavyweights weighing in and the campaign?
Well, I think it's I mean, like you said, that ain't nothing new, but it reminds me of what is they used to what is it called when they used to rap and then put it in the politics, but it wasn't just politics. They had math, they had a whole bunch of other stuff, math, reading, arithmetic. They also was like it was old school rock. Old school rock. Yeah, old school rock. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So it's basically they just revamping the whole situation to fit their angle, you know.
Well, yeah, I think I remember what you're referring to. I've referred to this campaign a little bit as an after school special on a couple of occasions because they're
Yeah.
trying to. I mean, it's really way too complex. It's just, and I'm not here to critique the whole thing. It's just that there's a bit much to be desired, and for what they're saying that they're covering, they're really not. I can't even say that they're scratching the surface. They talked about, oh well, it talks about antibodies, and I don't remember them going over. I don't even remember them giving a definition of the antibodies. So you have to develop a lesson, even if you say this is what you're going to do.
Right.
You're
can't-
not developing anything. You're just kind of throwing some things out there. Oh, and hoping that they'll hang on to some piece of it. Like, they're just throwing stuff on the wall and hoping see what sticks. That's what I'm, that's the aptitude that they're trying to appeal to. And it's going to work for some people. It's going to work. It's probably going to work for quite a few that want to be fed. They want to be fed information, whether it's, well supported or well substantiated or not. But I yield back. I yield to you.
Your boy Denzel Washington said himself. He said, "What a great responsibility the media has for just putting out information. What responsibility you guys have to not just be first and just get it out there. That's where we at. But it's funny how he's seen that back 10 years ago, and it's just like that can't be no more relevant than today. Like They just put out the information first. If 10 people got the same information, they put it out first. But you got one person with true information. It's like drug dealing and buying the block. It's like drug dealers they'll have one block, then they buy the next block, and then they buy the next block. And it's not that in competitor that tries to come, it's not that their stuff isn't good. The whole block is bought out, and bought up. You know, so they're doing something similar. They're using it's like street tactics. If you could use the numbers, if you could use the numbers, knowing that you don't have the skill, you'll win by numbers. And that's what they're trying to do right now as far as information. If I own 10 networks and we all push out the same exact information with the same wording, they're not even switching up their wording because Tucker Carlson and so on and so forth, other people could literally play 10 other stations and they all say the exact same words at verbatim. Like they have a playlist, a playbook that they go by, and they read off the same playbook. I can't pull that up. I gotta find it. But Carlson was saying it last night that he basically said exactly what I just said. That if all of y'all saying the same thing, but then you turn around and bring the military in DC for disinformation. The definition of that word when it's combined with military is usually propaganda wars, stuff like that. That's what China and Germany was going through, and it's happening now. If you have in any kind of military involved in information, that's it's like propaganda and control. Like if you don't agree, we may be surveillancing you and watching the information you put out. That's why it's getting real sticky now, and you can't say certain words, you can't say certain stuff. You'll set off all of these blue check guys, I like to call them. If you're not verified, or if the information is not, what do you call it? Fact check now. And we got fact checkers that start from the Google, but they basically own everything now. So it goes from Google to Twitter to Facebook, Instagram. I'm like, shoot, what's next? Everything we touch, you know.
Well, I can see exactly where you're going. I mean I'm it's exhausting, and it's exhausting, and you don't know. Most people don't know who to trust. They don't want to trust. And I'm speaking from a community standpoint. They don't want to trust anything that kind of falls in line with what they put out as a conspiracy theory. Oh well, they think anything that's opposite. Oh, it's some underground website, or if it's not on the main networks. They don't
They
want it. They
actually
don't want
fit.
anything to do with it. They're not going to listen to it. And not only that, you find some of the most educated people.
Yep.
They, like I know, and I don't mean to say, I don't want to say people, the most educated people, that just because they don't have a 4-year degree or an advanced degree, that they're not as educated. But those people that are holding those degrees, they absolutely don't want to. They don't want to accept anything else other than, they don't want to accept anything from any other sources that are not mainstream or these Ivy Leagues. Because when I look at that video, I would have figured, okay, why didn't you have, if you guys are really trying to teach something, don't be disingenuous about your objective. Bring some scientists.
Right.
What institution do they represent? You got this Dr. Hip Hop, this Dr. Williams on that video, and he was and DMC McDaniels was doing all the talking. Why not let him?
Mhm.
Why not let him let him teach, let him inform people. You're just hoping people are going to rely on their emotions to say, oh, you notice how he says, "Oh, I haven't received mine." when she asked the news, the host says, "Oh, have you gotten yours?" He says, "Oh no, I have to wait until all the most vulnerable." I'm paraphrasing. The most vulnerable people receive theirs first, and I'm just doing it for. I'm pretty healthy, so I'm doing it for other people. It's not just don't be selfish and turn off the TV. You guys saw it. I mean, I really don't want to put you through that again, but
Yeah, I mean, this topic is directly related to when Thomas Sowell had an interview with I forget it's a white guy, I forget his name, but he was literally talking about um intellectuals and how the class of the intellectual, they're really the most unwise. As far and that word intellectual is directly based on um uh college professors, people with a whole bunch of degrees, like you just said. You could get so you could get so coached into the world telling you that you are so smart, you stop looking to gain, and you stop looking. You almost think that you know it all, but then it turns to your actions. So when you put out the information, anybody questions it. Well, you've been told all your life you was the smartest. You. All the eight people used to cheat off your tests, and you know you got a catalog of degrees and whatnot and accolades. It could morph society in total. I'm about to pull up that interview, but it's a little short clip. It was specifically talking about the intellectual and are we becoming a nation of intellectuals? Because if we can't tell them or teach them anything, they're smarter than us by like by not definition, but by them just owning everything. You know what I'm saying? By them just owning every news station and owning it with they're buying a block. And once the block is bought up, it don't matter how good our food is. you know, they own everything.
well,
You
it's
know,
funny. I'm familiar with that. I think it's intellectuals, and I know exactly the book, and
Yep,
I saw
yep.
that interview where he basically talked about we do have quite a few intellectuals, and they champion things that they're really not, that are really outside of their out of their domains of competence. And I talk about that kind of regularly around here. I mean, we've talked about Gates before. We've talked about him. You can
Um,
look at many people that are not, they didn't train, or they weren't even certified by their own institutions, but then they claim to know what's best for you and me when it comes to whether it's education or whether it's medicine that they haven't had any training on. It is a culture. It is dominating, and the way they're using hip hop, I'm going back to your point from you were saying earlier in terms of I think the hip hop culture, they've always sold to the Black community. They've always had a method of selling, whether you want to call it propaganda, whether you want to call it illegal or restricted narcotics. They've had a culture of doing that, and they've had a culture of doing that. But I don't know how much more are people going to accept, or is it enough to have somebody that has like an Emmy swag or Grammy swag is what you need to be convinced to go out and do something that affects your health on a long term. We're not talking about a sore arm or a side effect. We're talking about, beyond that. They even deny anything. They deny they showed the double helix, but he says, "Oh no, it's not going to affect that." So it's just, yeah, I mean, I have I just think there's much to be desired there, but
I do have an interview if you allow me to share it.
well, we'll go into it just a few,
Small,
just a couple of minutes, because I'm going to wrap us up here, and then we'll come back. We'll do this again for sure. All right.
Right.
Okay. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to show you, this is Peter Robinson from the Hoover Institution. And does this have Dr. Soul on it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
This is the
So
one.
this is
He's
all,
going
they
over
always
the
do a
blood.
great interview. Okay. So here we
I'm
are.
Peter Robinson. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at twitter.com
We want to mute your mic.
UNC knowledge. That's
Okay, now
twitter.com/.
you said is it muted?
Yeah, just mute it so it won't echo here. There you go. I think hit play button and see if it works there. I'll mute mine.
I'm about to disconnect. It's echoing because I got it hooked up to my speaker. Let me disconnect the Bluetooth. Do it that way, and let me know. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
It went out all the way there. So is it?
Yeah, it
Could
did.
maybe if you could just maybe mute your screen, just mute your microphone, and then no, you can't do that. I'm not sure. I'll mute mine and see if it works.
Mm,
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/UNC knowledge. That's twitter.com/UNC knowledge. Dr. Thomas Sowell has taught economics, intellectual history, and social policy at such institutions as Cornell, UCLA, and Amherst. The author of more than a dozen books, Dr. Sowell is now a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. His newest work, Intellectuals and Society. Tom, we'll begin with a quotation. Then candidate Barack Obama in July 2008, quote, "It's like these guys, Republicans, take pride in being ignorant. They should go talk to some experts and actually make a difference," close quote.
Well, talking to experts does make a difference. Many of the great disasters of our time have been committed by experts. You may remember FDR's brain trust, which, according to later studies, prolonged the Depression by several years. The whiz kids in the Pentagon under McNamara, who managed to mess up the Vietnam War. You can run through an impressive list of things, of disasters brought about by people with very high IQs.
All right. Segment one, the species of the intellectual. When you refer to intellectuals in society, whom do you mean?
I mean people whose end products are ideas. There are other people with great intelligence whose end products are things like the Salk vaccine.
A research scientist is not necessarily an intellectual.
That's right.
An engineer isn't necessarily an intellectual.
That's right. Because the engineer is judged by the end product, which is not simply ideas. If he builds a building that collapses, it doesn't matter how brilliant his idea was, he's ruined. Conversely, if an intellectual who's brilliant has an idea for rearranging society, and that ends in disaster, he pays no price at all.
I see. Let me quote Intellectuals in Society, quote, "The fatal misstep of intellectuals is assuming that superior ability within a particular realm can be generalized to superior wisdom or morality overall. Chess grandmasters, musical prodigies, and others who are as remarkable within their respective specialties as intellectuals within theirs seldom make that mistake." Explain that. Why would it? Well, let's take an example. Noam Chomsky, whom you write about in Intellectuals in Society, whose work in linguistics, in the first place, I can't understand it, but as best I can tell, everyone who understands his technical work within the field, within his discipline of linguistics, considers him one of the great figures of the 20th century. And his work in politics?
Absurdity. The same could be said of Bertrand Russell and his landmark works on mathematics and other people in other fields, but they step outside their field. And when you step outside your level of specialty, sometimes that's like stepping off a cliff.
And why is it that intellectuals, that is to say, people whose end product is ideas, should succumb to that temptation more than, to use your example, a chess grandmaster?
Because a chess grandmaster can be world famous for doing absolutely nothing more than winning chess tournaments. and making displays, as many of them do, of playing 5 chess games simultaneously while blindfolded.
So Bobby Fischer had no need to opine on the politics of the day because he was getting rich and famous and making a brilliant career for himself within his narrow profession.
That's right. That's right.
But intellectuals, what they languish in obscurity, no matter how smart.
Well, the whole question of when is someone well known or not came up during the visit of Jim Flynn from New Zealand here a few years ago. He's one of the world's authorities on IQ tests. People, in India know about Jim Flynn. People in England, he made a world tour. But I doubt if the people in the next block from where he lives know who he is.
I see. All right. It is far easier to concentrate, again, I'm quoting from Intellectuals in Society, it is far easier to concentrate power than to concentrate knowledge.
Yes.
What bearing has that got on the influence that intellectuals have over society as a whole?
Because they believe that since knowledge is concentrated in people like themselves, what needs to be done is, in the quote from President Obama, is to put more power in the hands of the experts.
So the intellectual temptation is to say, look, we already know everything.
That's right.
If only we also had
the power,
all the power,
yes,
everything would be just fine.
Yes.
And what's wrong with that view? Why isn't that a sensible view?
One, they don't know everything. They don't know 1/10 of everything. In fact, I argue that they probably don't know 1% of the consequential knowledge in a society.
Consequential knowledge is a concept that runs through this book. Explain that concept.
Knowledge whose presence or absence has consequences, serious consequences. I mean, I was once in a plane that was coming down for a landing in the Ithaca airport, and suddenly the pilot gunned the motor and went up again because someone in the control tower had reminded him that he hadn't lowered his landing gear. So that was consequential knowledge, right? Yes, yes. I'm just delighted that person had his eyes open and his mind on his work.
So the notion here is that the kind of knowledge, the kind of consequential knowledge required to prove effective in governing a nation such as the United States with the biggest economy in the world, 300 million people, you can put together quite a large group of professors, and they're still not going to possess the knowledge that would enable them to run general or to run the nation's healthcare system, for example.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that has happened all around the world in the 20th century was that all sorts of countries have tried central planning. Now, the guys who run the central planning, they usually have advanced degrees from prestigious institutions. They have mountains of statistics sitting there, and they have all the experts of the country at their beck and call. And yet, when you take the power out of their hands and return it to the market, then all the hundreds of millions of people who don't have any of those things usually end up with a higher rate of growth and a more rapid decline in poverty.
Because consequential knowledge by its nature tends to be diffused, widely diffused.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So I think he gave a lot of examples of the elite and those who want to champion themselves as masters of the universe. He gave a lot of examples of how they can make these assertions and disrupt people's lives, but they won't suffer any consequences for it, not because of their status. And it's to add up more injury, insult to injury. It's not even their domain of competence to begin with, but they won't suffer any consequences for what actually happens to people. So I really appreciate that so much, DJ Vision Barnett. And I'll give you the final word here before we wrap up. You're muted right now. Let me unmute you. Okay, there you go. You're not muted.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody for checking out that. I apologize. I'm not just rubbing their engine. But,
hey, that's better than my turntable scratch sound effect.
Hey,
I'll give you a warning before I start doing those.
Maybe I'm gonna get a machine so I can start with a cuss button. So every time I think I'm a cuss, just press the button like potato. But Yeah, appreciate y'all. That last point was exactly what we're going through right now. And it's funny how you could have takes of ideas long before, and they're so relevant right now, and it's directly based on leadership and intellectuals and power. And power. So if the intellectuals were so esteemed at their knowledge, get the power that they don't already have, and then they got the intelligence and the power, at least the perceived intelligence and power, then they do whatever they want. So we just gotta give the power back to us and not let the intellectuals think that they're smarter than the whole goddamn country at this point. Because that's what they're doing. They're putting out the information. They tell you don't question it. Don't you dare question it. So yeah.
Well, I thank you for that, DJ Vision Barnett. You know, I remember during the holiday season, I said, okay, well, we do, to your point, we the people, we do have power. We as consumers, we have power. So I said, why don't you resist buying those big ticket items this year? Resist that PS whatever,
Mhm.
500 or whatever this year, and take your power. You could take your power back like that. That's one way. That's one way of doing it. But it's the big box stores, they stayed open, and the little guys, mom and pop restaurants,
Yep. Right
brick
across
and
the
mortar,
street.
brick
That's
and
shut
mortar places are shut down. So thank you so much, DJ, for coming in and sharing that. And just tell everybody where they can find you. DJ is a content creator here on YouTube. So let us know.
You can find me here at DJ Vision Barnett on YouTube, and also my Instagram is Vessi underscore LLC Victory Executive Security International. Um, Also branching out to a few nonprofits and prepper community people in the industry and stuff. So if anybody want to holler at me and in partnership on a sponsorship, then hey, I'm down for it. And also ammo reloading is also a part of that prepping situation as well. So appreciate y'all.
All right, DJ, thanks so much for coming in. And we look forward to seeing you again around here. Thanks so much.
Peace.
All right, guys. So this has been another lights, camera, action, or a Black Spring Thursday, and we're just going to do a final recap. I'm going to say hello to everybody, and thank you for coming in. And then we're going to say so long on your Thursday. So today we started out with take 3 on the anthology of the community immunity sponsored by the HHPH out of New York. We did an interview. We included an interview with Mr. DMC himself. We did that earlier. You also got a chance to hear from him, as well as the Dr. Hip Hop or Hip Hop Doc that's a part of that coalition. We also discussed the effects on the CV-19 on education globally, and how I think technology is the trajectory, more technology for the classrooms worldwide. We also had a actual op-ed. We had an op-ed from Dennis Prager of PragerU. He's a columnist and a journalist himself. And we had a piece shared by DJ Vision Barnett, or AKA No Games. We had a piece shared on intellectuals and to me, a bit of their stronghold. They've had, it seems like they've had a history of influence on the country, and no less than right now. And I think we covered one. Maybe did we cover one other piece? We pretty much had the bulk of it. The bulk of our program today was on the mocktails and the influences that that hip hop has, and what the elite has over over the people, and how they are locking arms and turning into civic societies and running and trying to run our lives, and the institutions that affect we the people. So I really appreciate everybody so much for coming in. And also we talked about how San Bernardino and how some of the other states have adopted or picking up this torch on racism being a public health crisis. So we kind of chewed on quite a few things, but if you're looking for any of those links, I think I put quite a few of them in the stream for you today. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I want to say hello to everybody, give a final infomercial, and then we'll say so long on your Thursday. So Kimon Reed Unstoppable, thank you so much for coming in. And shout out to Derek C. Williams, another fantastic content creator, for sharing out today's stream, as well as Angela Reed, thank you so much. Anarchy Television, thank you so much for coming in. We had Anarchy's fantastic content creator as well. Thank you so much for all that you do. And I am catching up, so I'm not, this is for Rachel Van Ziel. I will be checking out the information that you've shared with me. I thank you for that. Let the truth be told. Thank you so much for coming in and supporting. And Terrence Bain TDOA, thank you so much to Definition for all that you do to support the channel. And Sleek Steaks Rule, thank you so much for coming in. Kimon Reed Unstoppable, our friend out of Canada, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Nice to have your support. Steve Willis, thank you so much for coming in. And make sure I didn't miss anyone. DJ Vision Barnett, thank you so much for coming up and sharing with us. Because, the thing about it is, I think that, and I'm digressing just for a second here. I mean, Dr. Soul is not heard from quite enough, but I think he got a little bit weary of the whole media hacks years ago, because he's given many interviews. He's talked about how he's given them things. He's given interviews, and when he get the publication of what was printed, it was not even close to his responses. So I just think he just kind of got tired of. He got tired of them, their narrative and their control, and he just kind of got tired of dealing with it, and just realized, this is what it is, and as I say, it is what it is, and it's not what it's not. So I think he learned that long ago, when I think he kind of changed his own his approach to to expressing his ideas, and he began to write. It seems like he's written even more books since that time. Awesome Alice, thank you so much for coming in and supporting. I really appreciate you guys. Rachel Van Ziel, Nia X, I'm sorry I missed you. I saw you, but I didn't get to say hello earlier. Thank you, Nia X, for coming in. And I thank you guys so much. And I want to read this one comment from Rachel Van Ziel. She says, lol, the montages of verbatim stuff is funny. All right. So, and also thank you so much, Kimon Reed Unstoppable. I want to drop that link one more time. It seems that we are picking up some more traction over on Twitch. So if you haven't gotten your Twitch drive up, I invite you to please get your Twitch drive up and let us know how it's going. If you're having issues, to me, that's good to communicate that too. Now we can take the tough stuff around here. I know it's cumbersome to go between so many of these platforms, if you will, but unfortunately it's necessary for the presence of, or for the life of this channel. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we're going to go to a final couple of infomercials, and we'll say so long on your Thursday. You guys have a great rest of your day, and great start to the weekend. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, there's something for everyone. So please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn and our segment entitled Lights, Camera, Action on your Thursday. You guys have a great rest of the day, and I look forward to seeing you guys, as always, the next live stream, in the comment section, on a video, a test, or what do you know, maybe even a moonlight stream. You guys have a great rest of the day.